Ladies and gentlemen, it is my first day back at work in a while, so it feels like a Monday, but it is a Tuesday. Did a little research on the album I'm gonna review. Just solidified my belief that it's a good album. It's worthy of reviewing. Let's see what's on the radio, shall we? Oh, traffic's interesting today. Might just have to stay home. It's cold. People want to stay in their beds. These people don't even have beds, but they want to stay in bed anyway. Well, he's tall.
Don't like that, don't like chicken on Sunday, baby.
That's right.
What makes the raindrops fall?
Oh, Sammy Davis. I was thinking about Sammy Davis yesterday because they were Legends 100.3 was playing Sammy yesterday. Once in a Lifetime, which I think is a very good recording. But every Sammy Davis song is worthy of study or a listen. He's such a performer, an entertainer. As a short person, a short man, you know, there's a category for short men, right? As opposed to a short woman. I think that it's easy to dismiss us, but it's also easy for us to get a laugh. So of course there are pros and cons to everything. I remember when Randy Newman released Short People Don't Have a Reason to Live. Short People, what was it? Short People Got No Reason to Live? I don't know, something about short people. I was like, what? But, you know, I was still growing. But Sammy Davis is a very interesting character. I think he's known for converting to Judaism, but he actually studied or partook in a lot of different things and said that he wanted to experience every aspect of life, including the dark arts. So one of my interests is how the occult has affected Hollywood and how Hollywood has brought all of us closer to the bad stuff, further away from the good stuff. But Sammy, with his one eye, invokes those images of Woden, Wednesday, Woden, the Norse god with one eye, but also all of the one-eye symbolism of the Illuminati and so forth. And I don't think it had ramped up in his time to a point where every artist covered one eye like they did in the 70s and forward. But the biography that I read about him, it was interesting. It was good. He started at a young age. Clearly, he knew how to get an audience's attention. He knew how to dance and sing. He seems to have remembered his lines easily. And he was an avid learner, very curious. He didn't go to school much, but he just learned everything he came in contact with that he could. And he was part of a family group, went off on his own, succeeded beyond anyone's expectations for him. And this particular biographer liked to talk about the fact that he was in love with this white lady and acted as if society kept them apart and whatever. The thing that angered me about his life was that he was a symbol for Black Americans. And boy, it's hard to be a symbol. But you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, because it can help your career and it can give you a sense of purpose, and it can, you know, you can do a lot of good when you're a symbol. But when he gave Nixon a hug, the world went crazy and went against him. And I was reading that book when Trump was president, and I thought, if a Democrat and a Republican cannot be civil to each other in public without the public going crazy, then there's just something really wrong. And we knew it when Trump was in office, when they were talking about each other, and the Democrats were so mad that Trump was so rude that they started getting rude too. But Sammy Davis Jr. was an entertainer, and he was of the style and time period when entertainers hugged each other and had that certain air of confidence and positivity, and as part of the Rat Pack, he just had this respect, and by showing public likability, it could have been interpreted as an acknowledgement that yes, a lot of people didn't like Nixon's policies, but Nixon won with a landslide. So the gulf between what Americans thought and what Hollywood thought and what the press thought must have been bigger than I understood. Because I'm sure Sammy Davis was hugging everybody. That's just part of his persona. And you're allowed to disagree. You're supposed to be allowed to disagree in this country. In this country, they just go back and forth. Republicans, Democrats, Republicans, Democrats, Republicans, Democrats. And sure, they pretend like they hate each other, but they all keep each other in business. And without the ridiculousness of one party, the other party couldn't be as ridiculous either. So for his career to suffer from giving Nixon a hug, it's just so ridiculous. And then the other interesting episode in his life was when he gave this huge banquet or dinner party or something for, I don't know, hundreds of dollars a person or something. And then the legend was that he was bankrupt after that. I don't think he was that bad. I think that people turn everything into a good story. And that's how he wanted to spend his money, and he did spend his money. And he did what he wanted to do, and he was a great success at it. He became a household name, and I think that's what he wanted. So I see his life as a triumph. And everybody who was anybody went to that party. And I think that they did make fun of him for being short. And they did limit his potential because he was black. And they did pigeonhole him as an entertainer and not much more. But everybody is limited by what the public thinks of them. And he did extremely well for himself. His meal, that dinner party, expensive banquet or whatever it was, became a symbol of his excess. And as much as I like Billy Crystal, he made fun of Sammy Davis and Lorenzo Lamas with Fernando's Hideaway and Edward G. Robinson. And I was of the age where Sammy was already too old to be considered one of my celebrities. You know, we pick people, we as teenagers pick people a few years older than us to introduce us to young adulthood and adulthood themes, and put posters on our wall of people a little bit older than us who have reached a stage of maturity we haven't reached. But Frank and Dean and Sammy, the Rat Pack, had already passed that age, and so to me they were already old-fashioned. But if you listen to his stuff, it's timeless and it's good stuff. So back to that meal. The Shah of Iran had everybody trek into the desert. I don't know, did they go to Persepolis? Somewhere. They went to somewhere and they had this huge banquet with all these delicacies and people invited all around the world. And that was, of course, before his downfall, because if he hadn't been in power, he wouldn't have been able to do that. So looking back, everybody saw that as a symbol of his political demise and excess and so forth. But he was celebrating the anniversary of Persian culture, and it was pointing out that it still existed, and it still does exist. It's just got the fundamentalist Islamic stamp on top of it. But there's still a Persian culture, that the same one that he was celebrating. But that came to be a symbol of his downfall, and Sammy's meal came to be a symbol of his downfall. But it's just a good story. He didn't have a downfall. He did what he wanted to do. He lived his life his way. So if you want a good read or a good research project, study how he bounced back from that horrible accident and stayed on top of the entertainment world. And I think the future will be kind to him. And he'll start getting more respect. Frank Sinatra used to make fun of him. But Frank was from a position of power and respect that Sammy didn't have. So it seems like a bully. And it may well have been bullying, but I think they all made fun of each other, and I think they all hugged each other, and I think they all got along, but there's always an undertone of an underdog in Sammy's case. But like I said, you can't really dream of a better career. So, how sorry are we going to feel for him? We're not. So that's my little take on Sammy Davis Jr., one of the singers of the Great American Songbook, who made it big on TV and movies as well. And that's it for a Tuesday morning.